Hi everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in this world. My name is Vignesh. I'm a design manager here in Adobe, working on Adobe XD. I'm filling in for Talon, who's not here today. Those are big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, a lot of
And with me today is Alex.
Yep. Hey everyone. I'm Alex Pterik, senior designer on XD. I've hosted this a few times, so you might be a familiar face for you guys. I know you were here last week with Talon, right? So
Yeah, this is 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, Talon and I were talking about just building a design team with an incredible amount of talent that we have. It's been pretty amazing, pretty exciting. Hey guys on the chat, Simon, I hope you grab that coffee that you want to grab, and Olivier from Canada. Welcome.
yeah, totally. I love to see where people are from all the time.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So if you guys want to shout out where you're from, let's see where you're representing, and yeah, we'll do a little call out. And
Yeah.
we're pretty fresh off a break.
We are. We are. I don't know if many of you know this, but Adobe does this every 6 months. It gives us a week break, just go refresh ourselves and come back with energy. And I think a lot of us have done that successfully, I might add.
I'm refreshed. I'm so refreshed.
So today we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about, Alex? We're going to talk about some fun stuff.
Yeah,
that
we
was
got some-
recently released, I think.
Got some really cool stuff. So just quickly, thanks for joining us. And if you don't know what XD is, we're going to give you a little bit of an intro to that and talk about some of the features and things we're going to do. And it's going to be a good show.
Let's get started. Hey, Marcelo and Marius from Brazil. Wow, nice.
Nice.
It's awesome. One of the places I've been wanting to visit.
I need to go there soon.
All right, so Alex, do you want to jump in and just give a quick tour of XD for those who are joining us for the first time?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So if we want to jump to my screen real quick. Oh, there we are. Already there. Way ahead of me. So this is XD. I'm going to give a brief intro just because some of you might not be familiar. Some of you just want to know what we're talking about. Maybe you clicked on that link, saw it, you're like, what's this thing? But real quick, XD is an app for screen design. So you can pretty much jump in, design, prototype, and share all your designs, go through the entire workflow. So this is XD as most basic form. You can go up here and go to File, New, and get started. We have some templates for you over here. So if you're building an iPhone app or a website or whatever it is, a custom one, you can just quickly pop into here and we get you started. So
Yeah, it's one of the things I've loved about what we try and do is really help people get started quickly, because it's, you don't want friction in the early stages of you have an idea, you want to quickly do something with it.
yes, there's no
like that.
barrier to entry.
Right.
Really. It's
Yeah.
here
One
you
of the
are.
things we definitely focus on.
You know what you're doing.
Right.
But yeah, I just kind of want to breeze through this real quick because I know most of you are probably pretty familiar, and I mean that's why you're here. You want to see how we design XD with XD. But just fundamentals, you can just quick drawing tool, and you can sort of just create multiple designs, iterate really quickly, just start to build something quick. And then you can hop into prototype mode, and from here I can wire things up. So if I want this to go to this screen when I click on it, it's just as easy as that. And now you sort of have this. Probably hard to see, not the best example for this because there's a line over there, but I think you guys get the point. And over here you can share your prototype with somebody. I think a better illustration of this is if we just showed some work. So
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into the things that we wanted to show you guys. Hi Simon again from UK, then Purse One. I hope I'm not butchering your name too much.
Oh yeah,
Constantine.
I'm bad with pronouncing names, so I'm glad it's you.
I'm bad.
Just real quickly though, let's show some stuff that you can do with XD. So I was scouting Twitter a little bit, and if you guys have some of your work and you want to share it with us, we can pull it up. But I was just kind of looking through Twitter, seeing what people are doing with XD these days, and there's some cool stuff going on. You can get to some pretty awesome fidelity work really quickly. Just search Adobe XD to just kind of see what people are doing. Parisa has this cool taco app that she's just playing around with and starting to learn XD.
I like tacos.
Tacos, I'm hungry.
It's
I need
always a
some
good
lunch.
thing to design for.
So Sam has this really cool app that's starting. It's a pretty beautiful app actually. Like this is like
amazing.
Really gorgeous. It's a really good screen design tool, even if you're not into the prototyping side of things, which we're going to get into in a little bit. You can do some pretty awesome stuff. So you got your this is a BitTorrent app, which is hilarious, and you have your light themes and dark themes. But yeah, these people are doing some cool stuff, so go check it out.
It amazes me. It's like when you design tools like XD, you have an idea, you build for like certain use cases, but it always amazes me how our users are able to take what we design and the tools that we give them and really outthink us in some ways and build some amazing things out there.
Seriously.
It's always exciting to see.
And people use these in ways that we're not not that we're not intending it that way, but that we're not really focusing them towards.
Right.
A good example of this one is from Tim. He made these illustrations. These are just icons. Like,
it's amazing.
It's not even screen design really. It's just some really cool, awesome looking illustrations that people are doing in XD, and it just shows how versatile it is.
It's amazing. It's always inspiring to see content that's created using the tools that we build.
So Tim, good work. And I do want to do a quick plug for Andrea. She's our Adobe Creative Resident.
That's right.
She's doing some cool stuff over the next couple of months. She's looking at the Internet of Things and designing apps for that. So if you want to go check out her Twitter at AndreaHawk0, I think it is. She's looking for ideas, things that she can just design and build and get inspired by. So like what things in your everyday life that really frustrate you that could be maybe you can make an app out of, just kind of being a little bit imaginative, even if the tech's not there yet, like what that might look like in the future.
Yeah.
So,
it's something that if you guys are interested, you should check it out. It's so she's part of our creative residency program, where Adobe as a company, we partner with some creatives. Then through the program, they create some amazing things using Adobe tools. And Andrea is one of our creative residents this year, I believe.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So if you're interested, check out that program.
Yep. She does some vlogs too, so she'll do some tutorials on how to do things. She'll review tech in that space as well.
Yep.
But she's making these really beautiful visual designs, prototyping them in XD.
Yep.
They're pretty cool. They look great. So yeah, check it out. Send her some ideas. Follow along with her. So just wanted to get that plug out there for Andrea.
Nice. All right, do you want to get into the meat of today's show?
Let's do it.
All right, so a couple of things that Alex and I wanted to share with you guys today, and maybe follow up with some examples and take you through how we designed that, and really the process of how we came to figuring out what would be a good way to present these features or tools for our users. And the two things that we're going to show are fixed elements or pinned elements and overlays. Do you want to start with pinned elements or fixed elements?
Let's do that. That's part of our process
That's
too.
part of our process too. It's the naming of this feature. What do we mean by that?
Yeah. So just for some background, one of the tasks that I've been given was to really focus on the prototyping side of things.
Right.
So for a while now, we've been working on some really cool new features. Some we've kind of sneaked in the past, and some we haven't announced yet. But one of the ones that shipped recently in XD is, like you're saying, overlays and fixed elements. So here's just a quick demo of how that works and how it can kind of like fit into your workflow. So say you're building an iPhone app, and you have this little, infamous hamburger menu up in the corner. Before, and in a lot of other tools, you would, if you want to show like that menu being popped up, what you'd have to do is duplicate the artboard,
Right.
And actually like build your artwork over here,
Right.
paste it on top, and then you would do your wiring up pretty normally. Like, let's go to prototype mode real quick, jump into it, and get it, and that would get you there. It would actually convey your point. It's not the worst way to do it, and a lot of people, that's just a really familiar way of doing it. But the problem with that is, if I want to do the same thing for another screen, say like this one over here, now I have to do the same
Duplicate
thing.
the output again.
I have to duplicate it again, copy this over here, and then now all of a sudden I have all of these different artboards, and hopefully I'm using symbols, so if I have to make a change, I can. But let's be honest, like a lot of us will forget or just doing something really quickly, so it's not the most ideal flow. And that's why we wanted to bring overlays. It's really powerful way of doing the same thing, except for it's more reusable. You don't have to use as many artboards, and it's a lot more flexible. So let's show an example.
Yeah,
how that actually do. So if I want to select that same hamburger menu, I can wire that up. Again, I'm in prototype mode, so I can start wiring things up with this little arrow over here. I'm going to bring it to this artboard where I have that menu already designed out. And I'm going to switch to this tab called Overlay. And what you'll notice right up front is that you have this green box over here. So this green box lets you position the overlay wherever you want. So I want this to be on the top, and so I'm going to move it up there. And you can see it goes away when I don't have this object selected. When I do, it pops back up. I can reposition it because it's very localized to that object. And then if I go ahead and, well, I'll hit play. I think it's going to dissolve on, which is fine, which looks okay. But if I want to really give it that like motion and that movement, what you can do is go to transition type and actually switch that to slide down. And that will actually really give it some life and make it feel like it's a real menu sliding down.
Right, and this is another thing I think you can't do with the traditional approach of duplicating artboards, because if you tried sliding down a duplicate artboard, the whole thing slides down, not just your overlay.
That's a great point. Like if we show that right now, just to give an example of what that might look like, is let's wire this guy up to here instead. Keep the transition, and now if I do that same thing like you're saying, if I have it on slide down, you'll notice the entire thing.
Yeah, so this is what happens if you were not using overlays, and I think that's one of the powerful features of overlays. And really you can play around with the transitions of how you want overlays, so whether it's a menu or keyboard, which are the common examples, or even like pop-ups, or quick alerts and those kinds of quick things that you want a user to take an action on. In your design, it's really, really cool that you can do that and you can figure out what kind of transition you want for it. Let's take a dive into like the process and some decisions that we've taken. Right? Like for example, like we talked about this, the color of the decoration. I mean, we talk about decoration, we're talking about like, in this case, the blue or the green outlines that you see. They're intentional. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So in XD, when we're designing these things, blue is usually our selection color. So that means we have this thing selected. So as you can see, this wire is selected. But what you'll notice is that this decoration is green over here. And the reason we're using that is because it's a reusability thing.
Right, and that's a big part of overlays. It helps you be more efficient with the artboard. So if it's a keyboard, for example, you don't want to keep duplicating artboards with keyboards on it. You have keyboard separately stored in one area of your canvas.
And you want it to slide up too.
And you can just have it slide up in whichever screen you have an input box for.
So another example is if you go into the assets panel and you create a symbol out of, say, all of these album art in the row, you'll notice that this selection actually becomes green. It's reusing that same paradigm of reusability within XD. So these are these consistent decisions that we have to make and be mindful of when we're doing it. And that's sort of where that came from.
Do you want to take them through a little bit of history of how the UI has evolved?
Oh yeah.
Even in our iterations of how do we present this feature to the user?
That's a good point. I'm going to actually screenshot this just so we can reference it later in comparison. But yeah, let's go to some of the history. So we've had many iterations, as you might see in this list of things. But up front, like one of the first approaches to this was, okay, can it just be a checkbox? and we were okay with that. It was a little weird being up top. Like it seemed
Right.
a little strange, but it made a lot of sense because it has to be the first decision you make, because once you check this, it's actually going to affect all the choices below it. So then there's this
Right.
like order of operations that you have to be mindful of when it comes to the user. So once they do check that, what are the options? So you can see right now that these all say slide left.
Right.
Let me turn this grid off. Push left and all of that. But once you check this, the names of all of these options change to
Right.
overlay slide left, just to really help the user understand that. At least that was our intention in this first iteration, but it's something that we really didn't feel too comfortable with.
Right,
It was just like
right.
it's a little strange paradigm for it. And let me see if I can pull up some other options that we had back in the day. Yeah, and again, like push isn't a thing you can do with overlays,
Right.
because it can only go on top of it.
Right.
it has
So
to
we
slide.
were disabling some and whatnot.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how, we evolved our designs, and at each step we're, evaluating the pros and cons of that approach. It's always fascinating to like go back and reflect on the journey of how we arrived at a design decision. Also interesting, I guess, to note, as always, that we love designing XD and XD.
Yes.
I think that's one of the
Good
fun
call.
facts about it.
Absolutely, it's kind of it's an interesting process. Here's a good example of, we had this checkbox and we're like, okay, like maybe that's not the way to do it, and then we're like, well, what if we didn't have that and we just had a whole new section in the
Right.
transition thing? We're just like, let's just call them overlays. But this is a lot of options.
Yeah,
It's pretty
it starts to
overwhelming.
feel pretty.
Yeah, it makes the
Pretty
user
long.
have to see all these things and then have to parse like what each
Right.
one means, and it kind of defeats the purpose of what we were saying is just easy access, like just jump
Right.
into it and know what to do. And again, this is where we landed, where we just have these tabs,
Right.
and then
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting too, like, I guess most design processes, we do a good amount of testing with designers, both internal in Adobe and outside of Adobe, and that sort of helps us evaluate, what's working, what's not, from a usability point of view.
user testing is super important. User researchers that we work with every day, crucial to the process and
Yeah.
informative.
Absolutely.
And I think another good reason for having these things separated in modes is because like overlays can be a lot more powerful in the future. Like there's going
Right.
to be a lot more options that we will hopefully offer to the users, and just containing it into its own world, it gives us that flexibility, and we're not just giving them like a whole list of options up front.
Right. Yeah.
So it gives us like room to grow in that world.
Yeah.
And these are all things we have to consider while we're
Yeah.
designing it.
Yeah. It's always, I guess, important to like look ahead to like what we want to do with some feature like overlay. Yeah.
One last thing on this is kind of talking about like this thing over here, all these colorful rectangles that we have going on. This was actually something Lars, another teammate, another designer on XD, put together, and it's really helpful and really useful. It's just sort of trying to rationalize what like every sort of outcome would be. So if I have two artboards that are the same size and then I make them an overlay, the result would be this. If I have a smaller one and then if I have a normal artboard and then I have a smaller overlay, the result will be this.
Right.
And this was before we allowed for positioning it yourself manually. So this was just like, okay, now we have to account for like what are all the defaults, like what are the best behaviors for this.
Right.
And so this was just a really good way of communicating to not only us as designers on the design team, but also to the product managers and all the engineers, and just sort of making sure that everyone's on the same page. It's, I think, like a really underrated part of our job,
Yeah.
which is just making sure that we're communicating it.
Yeah. Communication's huge, but very sort of, you're right. It's almost assumed in a lot of ways, and when that doesn't happen, you start to see issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's not the most glorious part of the job, making
Right.
these rectangles, but it gives you clarity, and it actually helps you do
Right.
your job better in the long run.
Yeah.
But it's a really, like you said, important part.
So do you want to switch to the other feature, the fixed
Sure.
elements?
Let's
So this is the
pull
other
that.
feature that was recently released, and we want to share that with you to give you an idea of different things you can achieve with it, and explain a little bit more about how we arrived at it even. And it's called pinned, fixed. It's an inside joke, but it's one of the debates we had for a long time was whether to call this feature fixed elements or pinned elements. I guess from either of the names you could probably figure out what it really means or what it does. Alex, do you want to share some?
Yeah. So just to touch on that, like fixed elements, I think we landed on because when you're talking about like CSS and coding,
right,
that's actually what they call it. And
right,
because a lot of times we're designing things that will be handed off to developers and stuff like that, it's important to share the common language and syntax between the two. But for a while it was pinned elements, and then I think we made the right call. We switched it over.
I think so too. Yeah.
So let's talk about what the feature does. So maybe people are just like, what is it? And we're just like kind of babbling about it. So when you're designing things in XD, one of the things that you might not know is that you can adjust the viewport and have a scrollable artboard essentially. So what this means is I can go here and I can scroll, right? So it acts like a web page or like your app, and kind of that behavior. But one of the really common things that somebody might want to do is make this header fixed, so keep it in place when I scroll. And you couldn't do that before, but now we have this very simple but very powerful tool where you can select this header. So this header is just up top, and we can check this little box underneath the transform controls, so the position and stuff like that. You can pretty much say, keep it in that position, even if I'm scrolling. So I can go ahead and play one more time, and then you can see that it just stays in place.
Right. It's a really simple but very commonly used feature, especially when someone's doing web design. You would want your header, maybe even a footer that you have at the bottom to stay, or even a panel somewhere, right? It was frequently asked for in user voice as well, which is another way we get a lot of feedback and take that seriously in terms of what are some things that users want or people using our products want, right? Yeah.
Something kind of cool that you can do that I think some other tools won't let you do is just put the fixed element wherever you want it to.
Right.
It doesn't have to be at the top or at the bottom. It can literally be anywhere.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think of a good example. Might be so actually, if I just want this header to kind of stay in place, that can be kind of a cool effect because then you have this. It's maybe not the best example because it's still at the top, but this will stay in place and everything else will kind of.
You can start to do things like parallax, I think, right? When you play around with layers and fixing your background and whatnot, you can achieve some really cool parallax effect as you're designing and prototyping your website or anything, really.
Yeah, super trendy things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that didn't scroll with it, but there it goes.
There you go.
So you have that cool effect, and then things just start to layer on top of each other. You can also imagine, say, if I have an app kind of going on over here, and I want to add, say, let's make this scrollable and see what happens. Actually, I'm just doing it live now.
Okay.
Seeing what happens. I'm gonna make this artboard longer. Let's make this image bigger, and maybe I want this guy to kind of just float, right? So I want this play button to be like this floating, just button. Actually, I'm gonna move this stuff down here, and then I'm gonna make this a group, and then I'm gonna make it a fixed position. And then you can see that you have this kind of artwork and more information, but this play button always stays right here. And
that's kind of cool. So you can start to imagine like all sorts of use cases with the floating action button, right? That's very common in material design. You can start to see how fixed elements can be used to design some of that. And I think at some point we're also looking to add more interaction and capabilities to what you're designing. So beyond being able to fix it, you'd be able to do a lot more powerful things, animations and whatnot, and that'd be kind of cool as we get into all of those things.
Yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg too.
It's just the tip. We have a lot of work to do. And hi, other people who've joining us as we're sharing these things, to Kai and Eugenius. I hope I'm saying your name right. And Adebola.
Yeah. Throw out some features that you guys are looking for too.
Yeah, just throw in some questions if you have any. We're happy to answer, or see if you can, troubleshoot something you're trying to solve.
Or maybe we're just perfect, and we have everything, and nobody's having issues. And,
that's pretty funny. Yeah, but that's part of the design process too. Is we want to put stuff out there, but we understand different people use our products differently. So your feedback helps us tune our product. Since we are in this monthly cadence of releasing, we're able to quickly adapt to how different people use our products. And if you guys like pinned more,
that's too bad, because we're not changing it. We've gone back and forth on it. No, we're always open to hearing ideas from the community, suggestions.
We love hearing feedback and thoughts.
Another thing I wanted to... Oh, I just lost my train of thought.
I have a question for you.
What's up?
So why is it that your laptop doesn't have any stickers? What's with that, Alex?
Because I'm a hater. Just plain and simple. I like all natural. I don't know. I'm getting a new one. Maybe you can give me a housewarming.
That's gonna be my laptop warming.
I do have this one. I don't know
gift.
I have one sticker on the inside though. It's a D for Adobe Design, and also Detroit.
So, all right, that's right. He's from Detroit.
Representing.
But yeah, I guess that wraps up our section today. I hope you guys enjoyed going through these features with us, and hope you'll use it in your projects, and let us know how it's doing for you. Give us any feedback or thoughts, or if you have any questions. We're always happy to hear.
We could do a quiz. I'm just saying. We have some time for the quiz, man.
All right, so Alex has prepared this pop quiz for me that I didn't know about till half an hour ago.
So you're from the document side of the world, right?
I am from the document side of the world.
So you I have this little quiz that I put together. All it is...
You're going to make me look bad.
No, it's easy. All it is I'm going to give you some file types, and the extension, like the dot this, and you just tell me what they are. It's really simple. It's really easy.
Oh my god, this is not going to be fun.
All right, you ready? They're softballs. Don't worry about it.
All right, that's PostScript.
PostScript, nice.
That's electronic publishing, e-publishing, isn't it? Electronic PostScript.
You got a couple of them in there, but it's actually encapsulated.
There's something PostScript. There you go.
Because you're from the PDF world. You're from...
That's right. But hey, I was dealing more with .pdf than I was with .eps.
Okay.
There you go.
And you didn't know what it was?
It was actually interesting because a lot of my friends... So for those of you who don't know, before I joined Adobe XD, I was working on Document Cloud and Adobe Acrobat. So a lot of my friends really thought I was working on PDF. They would ask me why don't you design PDF? I'm like, I don't design PDF. That's not what I do.
I think that's my next one. Do you know what it stands for?
Yeah, it's Portable Document Format. I know that one.
I'm telling you, some softballs in here.
Is it rich text? Rich text format?
Nice.
Holy moly, I'm getting a little nervous. Comma separated values.
That's good. I didn't actually know what that was until today.
There you go.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Comma separated values, yep. PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I never saw the X was
Yeah,
for.
that's what I said too. I was like, X?
I think it was with Windows X. Didn't they have a Windows
10,
X?
maybe.
No, it was before that.
Was that for the Mac version?
Experience. Windows XP maybe? I think maybe it was Windows XP.
I think they just wanted
Anybody
to
from
seem
Microsoft
cooler.
in our chat who can answer that?
Yeah, throw it out there.
Hypertext markup language.
Cool.
I actually
That's pretty good.
used to teach HTML for kids when I was in college. So,
This one's sort of a trick question because it's actually
It's we even have.
it's a recursive acronym. So the P in PHP actually stands for PHP.
Oh my goodness!
Right?
That's insane. I did not know that. I didn't even know it had.
It used to stand for like pre-homepage or something like that, but then they changed it to be this like weird recursive.
Oh man!
Yeah, so that was a trick.
ADP. Never heard of that one.
That's just my name.
Oh.
That's the quiz.
Alex for you. This is what happens. Like every week, every day.
I said, we
have fun.
Put you to the test.
Thanks, Alex.
You did pretty good though.
I think I passed.
You missed the encapsulated one.
Yeah.
The EPS
ADP. One. I didn't know David was your middle name. I would have put that together if I knew David was your middle name.
Now you know. Yeah. We all learned something today.
Kathy has a question. Do we have time, Paco, for one or two questions maybe? All right, okay. We'll wrap up soon. But Kathy asks if, what's the difference between wireframes and mockups and how do you use it with clients? I think the way we think of mockups are really just higher fidelity version of wireframes. So if you're looking at like just, outlines, gray or blue, we'll probably call them wireframes. But mockups generally tend to refer to something that's higher fidelity.
So if you want to jump to my screen real quick.
Yeah, Alex has good examples of what the difference between a quick wireframe and...
Yeah, wireframes generally are really low fidelity. They kind of just communicate the point, but they don't allow your client to get really attached to the thing.
Right.
Because then you're going to start getting feedback that you really didn't want at this point in the process.
Right.
You're just like, this is the flow, and I want feedback on the flow. But once you start getting into these things where you just throw images in there, you might get some feedback like, oh, I don't like that image, and like this font's a little weird, and you're like, I'm not ready for that feedback yet. I just wanted approval on how the flow was, and then I'm going to start working on that.
Right.
So.
And Lucas has a quick thing about connecting elements with artboards. I'm not sure I fully understand that, but if I were to guess, in prototype mode, you can hook up elements and individual objects to like artboards. So you should be able to do that. Unless I'm missing the question.
I'm thinking he means like I think I know what he means. It's hard to communicate it, so I understand why it was difficult too. I think he means more like almost like a state-by-state thing, like object to object. So I click on an object and it transforms that object kind of thing, or it goes to another position or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Those are great questions, though.
Yeah, those are good. That's a really great question. I think we're working on something that might help with that, but for now, I think we have to wrap. Paco's waving his hand from behind, letting us know it's time to wrap. So it was a pleasure hosting this for today, and I hope you guys had fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining
in.